Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network. For the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews, press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
Aw, hell no!
Oh, hell yes!
Oh, hell yeah!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Where's the music? Let's open this. There we go. We gotta start things right. Holy moly! That can only mean one thing. 1, disaster's coming on this podcast. 2, we're talking about Sharknado 3. Oh, hell yes!
Hell yeah!
It's not quite a movie, but it's a TV movie, so we're talking about it. It's amazing. We have Demetri Panos, a regular of Anatomy of a Movie.
How are you, movie fans? And I gotta say, I'm excited about this. Sorry, I mean, I don't normally do stuff related to television or VOD stuff, but I couldn't pass up on Sharknado due to its pop culture popularity.
That's right.
Part of this.
And we're coming a little bit full circle. Dimitri and I got to interview Thunder Levin on I Talk Movies here on Popcorn Talk Network. And sitting next to him is Cathy Kelley, who I gotta say is the person that first told me about Sharknado when it originally.
Sharknado fan, yeah.
And so it is actually her that has gotten me into this franchise. I think I would have eventually found out about it just because of what it is, but I am glad that I knew about it at the right at the start of it.
We had Sharknado viewing parties. You have made shark-themed appetizers for people didn't really look like sharks, but it was a great effort. He brought Swedish fish and goldfish, and it was incredible.
Yeah, because the shark got to eat the goldfish.
Oh
viewing I wasn't invited. What?
That's great.
Oh. I was eaten by a shark. I couldn't make it that day.
Yeah.
There you go. So in general,
she was at the premiere of Sharknado 3, correct?
That's right.
So she was literally inside
the Sharknado.
Yeah, inside the Sharknado.
Yeah. And you've interviewed Cassie Scerbo on Chatting with Cathy.
Several times. She's a good friend of mine. And then, the cameos in this sequel, I feel like half of them were from my friends, all 55 of them. Was that the number? 55 cameos?
55 that were listed in this, but you said there was like 100.
We asked Thunder Levin when we interviewed him, and he said 154.
Yeah.
Now, if that's true or not, I don't know, but that's the number he said.
Did he give you the same answers did you guys ask him who his dream cameos are for future movies?
We talked about it. I forget the answer. Okay. I mean, we talked for an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
he was.
Like,
go ahead.
Him and a couple of the other guys at Asylum have all said Bill Murray is their hope that they one day get him. And
he did mention Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah, Harrison Ford is another one. Yeah. But Bill Murray, all of them were like, it's never gonna happen, but we really wanted him for 3. Hopefully we'll get him for 4.
It would be fun to have kind of the Oscar group. Like if you had Bill Murray, if you had George Clooney, and just all these guys that shouldn't be in Sharknado.
I want to see Ellen take a selfie with all the cameos of people in Sharknado, and then just get eaten by a shark
with all the people in the selfie. Mm-hmm. That would be great.
Yeah.
Oh man, so much to talk about. Again, we'll primarily be having fun with it. It's just a fun movie, so please forgive us for any silliness. But let's start with overall thoughts of Sharknado 3. Going into it, watching it, and kind of now, as you perhaps had a little time to reflect on it. Let's start with Cathy.
Love the Sharknado franchise. This one, there were so many cameos in it that it was that was clearly those 2 lines were written just for that person, and there was no reason to have it in there, but I still loved it. I don't know what it is about. It's just the way that it's written and how tongue-in-cheek and everything that it is, it works.
Yeah.
All I can say is sharks in space. I mean, that phrase alone is a title for another kind of a B movie. Yeah. I'm not here to I'm here for pure love of science fiction, of horror, of B movies, you know, which this movie fits into all of those categories. Yeah. And it's just pure fun. Like, look, Sharknado has become this pop culture huge hit. And it all started from a movie that was called Sharknado. And everything is in a title. And in Sharknado, enough said was the tagline. Because it was. It was enough said. We've got sharks in a tornado. We've got Sharknado. You had to watch just Untitled alone. And the mere fact that we're in Sharknado 3 and they've brought in all of these cameos, which we could talk a little bit about later on. I mean, the movie, it is what it is. I mean, it's just meant to entertain, to have fun. I guess one thing that I'm most surprised is, for a movie like this, is that they play it straight when you think about it.
Well, like, Cassie said, she's said so many times, you have to play it straight. Right. You have to take it seriously. Otherwise, people wouldn't love the film because they would be like, oh, they're making fun of this.
Yeah, it's not so self-aware. You know, had Ian Ziering or any of the cast members.
Ian Ziering.
Yeah, do not. Sorry. He's very particular.
All right, Ian. All I'm saying, like, if there was any point in which they broke that fourth wall and they looked into the camera after saying a cheesy line or somebody saying, you know, we got a Sharknado, what? Like, they never do that. They never break that. And I think that lends to this because that joke would get old very, very quickly.
But I did like, you know, when we talked to Thunder, he said that they would finally start asking questions, but none of them would be answered. And I like that of, like, you know, how are they surviving in space? How do they survive in a tornado?
It's funny because he went on record, I think it was an interview with HuffPost or somewhere, where Thunder Levin for Sharknado 2, the sequel, he basically debunked all of the like, they were asking him, well, you know, you kind of like dug yourself into a hole with this thing, how do you explain it? And explaining all of these things that should have been mistakes, he did it fine. Like, but for Sharknado 3, there's so many things that there are holes and gaps that I don't know.
They'll just gotta keep going.
It's just so ridiculous.
Well, but again, you know, Phil, I just watched like the last 15 minutes of this with you, and I even said, I pointed out, best line coming up. And it was that line that you just said. It's like, how are they surviving in space? Which is like a legitimate dopey question, but you're in a movie called Sharknado, and the perfect follow-up is, how do they survive in a tornado? Yeah. And that just shuts up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you re-enter the ozone layer of the Earth, or the atmosphere of the Earth in a shark and then survive?
Yeah, you got the ticket. Here's the ride, and like,
it's great.
Yeah, I just love that.
What to me, what I absolutely just love about this film, and I think, you know, it's the spirit that we can do anything. And that however we have to make this movie, we make this movie. And I think it's a spirit that, you know, I don't think it just has to apply to B movies. I think in general, people can apply it to, you know, films, but then also life. Because, you know, you look at the second one and they had paparazzi everywhere. And so they were like, okay, well, how do we shoot this without, you know, we don't have money to tell them to go away. So they're like, just shoot up.
Just shoot.
And it was like, that's what became the thing, you know. And obviously, you know, we'll talk about kind of being in Universal Orlando, and obviously, you know, it's a sci-fi movie, so NBC's kind of part of that. But however they can cut costs, and as long as it tells the story, it just works. I mean, half these sharks, like, it almost feels like as soon as they touch you in this movie, you're dead.
You're dead.
And you know that with so many cameos, none of these people are in it for the money. They're in it because they're passionate about being in it. They're so excited. Every single person that I talked to on the red carpet about being in the movie, they were like, yeah, I would have paid to be in this movie. And that's how I feel as a fan. I think that's how a lot of the people that were in it feel as well. It's a passion project.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Fun.
And when we were talking with Thunder Levin, we'd mentioned that. To me, it reminded me of like the 60s Batman television series. Again, and I'm going to make a correlation because back in the 60s, TV is what really brought people together. It's something that everybody shared in common. That's what they got to do. They went to TV and they went to the movies for their entertainment. And the Batman television series was on twice a week. And it started gaining so much popularity that there were guest stars that called in saying, how can I get on this show? And, how can I do this? And you are talking a show that had like people who were huge at the time: Vincent Price, Joan Collins, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Frank Gorshin, Burgess Meredith. Like, these were like your rogues, like villains. And then they brought in people like Jerry Lewis, and I believe Jack Benny may have been a thing. They had cameos. And Sharknado is the same thing. And again, when you talk about people bonding together watching a television show, I can't remember. I don't watch a lot of reality TV. I know a lot of people sharing that. But as far as tweeting goes and the social media, people pay attention to Sharknado. And I can see how the cameos, people say, hey, this is a fun thing to do. How do I be a part of it?
So that was one of the things that I was going to mention is Sharknado 3, oh hell no, only got 2.8 million viewers, which is 1 million down from last time. I think they got 3.8 million viewers with Sharknado 2. But it got over 2 billion Twitter impressions. 2 billion. That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. But again, it's one of those things when you throw it back, like people, it's a television show, as silly as it could be, that people watch together. And they have this community in which they're like tweeting and sending out fun stuff. I know Syfy channel would pop up tweets in between, in between commercials and things like that. In the past, Sharknado has rebroadcast it with live tweets going on. I don't know if they're going to do it this time. But
they're rebroadcasting it, I believe, on the 25th.
On the 25th? Yeah. And do you know if they're going to do the live tweeting like they've done in the past? I
think that they did it for the first time around. They did the live tweeting the second time because so many people just responded but hadn't watched it yet.
Let me ask this. This is kind of I should have perhaps known this question going to, but when was the second one released, like day-wise? Not the date, but the day, because this one was released on a Wednesday, which for me personally, I found tough. It's literally in the middle of the week. If it was like a Friday night movie, I'm there, and I get to.
They used to be weekend movies.
No, I didn't know.
It was on Saturdays usually.
I actually thought they were in the middle of the week. I thought Sharknado 2 broadcast was during the week.
Is it Jesse in the booth? That's for you fans, so you know who I'm talking to. It was the second one was released July 30th. Jesse, can you find out what the date of July 30th, the day that it was? And again, I apologize. This is perhaps information that I definitely should have known ahead of time.
Well,
it was a Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. And I say that because our own hero Ian Kaiser, I saw Sharknado 2 with him, and I know that it was during the week, and I could have swore that the original one was released around midweek, around the same time.
The first one, I remember watching the second broadcast because I saw so many tweets about it. I didn't watch the original, so I saw the second broadcast, and that was on a Saturday night.
Yeah, as you mentioned,
Wednesday.
Okay, yeah. And I know you said the 25th is tomorrow, which is Saturday. So and I know there's 2 broadcasts of it.
I want to know your thoughts on this because so many, Syfy has produced other B movies in the past or shown other B movies. One of them being, I think the night before, the night after the original Sharknado was Blast Vegas with Frankie Muniz. Why didn't something like that take off? And do you think that it's because I remember the original Twitter frenzy was Tara Reid is in this movie and it's awful.
Yeah.
But so awful that it's amazing.
Again, the only thing that I have is the title. I mean, you have Killer Croc versus, dinosaur or whatever. I mean, yes, Sci-Fi Channel is known for doing a ton of B movies. For a short stint, Sci-Fi Channel also had Mystery Science Theater 3000, which riffed on these types of movies for a while. So they've always made these Roger Corman-esque kind of movies. I think for Sharknado, I think for me, it was the title got me in.
Yeah.
Ian Ziering, again, just wanted to correct myself, in getting Tara Reid. I'm not entirely sure there were draws for me, but I love shark movie.
That was her comeback.
Yeah, it was huge.
His comeback as well. But
absolutely.
Hers especially.
But again, it wasn't so much that I was like, I couldn't wait to see these 2 people on television again. For me, it was, Sharknado. It's like, how the hell do you how do you explain sharks in a tornado eating people, getting flown around? I go, I'm in. But like you, and I mentioned this to Thunder as well, I didn't see it on its initial broadcast. But then the next day, everywhere I read, whether, the Hollywood trade papers and whatnot, it was all about the Twitterverse.
I learned how to use my DVR specifically so I could record Sharknado. That I did not know how to use it, and that's the reason why
I think it's come. I think it was at a good time for social media, and it also just goes to show when you have a fan base that can be loud and proud. Like American Hustle, to me, should have never won all the awards that it did. It just became this train, and the people that were fans of that movie were just so loud and stomped on you if you said otherwise, that you had no choice but to be like, oh yeah, American Hustle, greatest movie ever made.
I'm about to stomp on you.
but I think the same thing would happen with Sharknado. I do want to ask kind of one of the things that we discussed with Thunder and just in general we talk about here on Anatomy is marketing for a movie. And so going into this, did you feel like you knew too much? What were your expectations from the second to this one before you'd seen it?
Did they do much marketing? I feel like it was mostly social media and people just having that buzz about it, because I didn't see much at all.
I saw the trailer, and I know Demetri did, and it was like, we have The Godfather, we have this, and we have Sharknado.
Yeah, and great trailer, by the way, but I agree with you. The first Sharknado, Syfy went like really all out. I mean, and they just got the title, the awareness out there. So whether or not you were going to watch it, you heard Sharknado, and Sharknado, what? The second one, they poured a ton into the marketing. This one, I feel like they sort of kind of held back the reins, because I did not see a lot of I did not catch the same sense of marketing that they had.
They did some press at Comic-Con. I know that a lot of the stars in the cast went down there, but other than that, I really didn't see them funneling money into it.
It didn't seem to be as much as it had in the past. Like I said, the first one, you just had that great title to go off of, and then
this one
really
seemed. I think maybe in part was because they had so many cameos. I did see a lot of Instagram stuff. I mean, I saw Chris Jericho Instagramming about it, a week in advance, and I don't know if he was told to, or as we talked about
in the movie, I think you're proud of it, so you want to promote it.
I saw Cuban, Maria Menounos was posting about it, and so
Maurice
on.
So. And the other thing too that really helped propel, I think, the franchise too, it helps when on your first movie, while it's playing on Syfy Channel, when you get Mia Farrow tweeting, during the telecast, when you get Damon Lindelof, who to me said the funniest thing ever, he goes, watching Sharknado, working on the sequel as I'm watching, we'll have it done by the end of Sharknado movie. He goes, I'll have it done. So, people like other geek lords were like, Will Wheaton was tweeting during Sharknado, and like I said, Damon Lindelof, Mia Farrow of all people. You had high caliber geek-tastic people who were tweeting about this, so that the following day, I actually felt, and even though, I'd wanted to see it, it was like, what the hell did I miss? I missed this social popcorn event that is in my wheelhouse. How the hell did I let that happen? And it took a little while, too, for them to start to rebroadcast. But they got, big ratings, and then it was released theatrically, like we talked about. So it was really crazy. So they had all this momentum going into 2. So, it just seems that I agree with you. I see less marketing this time around. That could be why, there wasn't as much fervor as, say, the second one. Maybe they relied too heavily on social media.
Regardless, it's still a bigger rating than I think any of their other B movies have had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what's nice is... the crew has said it before, meaning the main crew, not the actual crew. As long as they keep their budgets good. I don't know what their 100% budgets are, but they keep saying we have to deliver a better movie, but pretty much on the same budget. You know,
Right.
they were gonna. You know, you would think like, oh, they would get a bigger budget for the third movie
Right.
and the fourth. No, it's still the same
Yeah,
as the
absolutely.
first overall.
And I think the other thing too is during Sharknado 2, I remember Syfy Channel was promoting heavily Ghost Shark, which was a shark that came back from the dead as a ghost. And that one didn't quite hit. And you know, it just doesn't have, let's say, the cheekiness of a Sharknado, which I think too, by playing it straight, that automatically makes it sort of kind of tongue-in-cheek, very much so. So, you know, I just think that it's just built up enough pop culture reference that people sort of kind of know what they're getting into now with the Sharknado movie.
Yeah,
You as
I
well?
agree.
100%.
Did you see Ghost Shark? No.
Don't worry, I shove B movies down her throat though, as between
I've
Zombievers
seen
and
a
everything
lot
else.
of Sharktopus.
Sharktopus. Yeah, there's a Sharktopus. There's another one.
Anything from before we kind of move on to other stuff, anything from the red carpet that, you know, the cast or crew has said, you know, that might be of interest to fans?
I mean, I think it was mostly the hype around Sharknado 4 that is actually happening. Whether April lives or April dies, that was another way that they involve social media. And I think that they're just all really on board for another movie, which is crazy to think about.
You know, you bring up a great point, and let's see how far we can get into this. That was a very interesting way to end this. They take a page from Batman: A Death in the Family, which is basically what happens is people got to vote on whether Robin lives or dies on that, and they sort of that's exactly what they do here. What are your thoughts on them doing that? What's that?
hell's
What
going
the hell
on?
is happening? Oh no! What the?
What the?
Oh hey! Whoa! The
Whoa.
scouts! Whoa!
Well, if you're listening,
We just
Cathy's
had
gone.
Yeah, we just had a Sharknado. Holy cow! Oh my god!
Here's the thing, dear listeners and viewers, we are sad about Cathy's death, but the show must continue.
Hashtag.
Let's have you vote. Did Cathy live? Hashtag Cathy lives. Or did Cathy die? Hashtag Cathy dies. I don't know.
I say hashtag Cathy lives.
All right. Well, again, like I said, we got to be professionals and we got to continue.
We'll miss you, Cathy. It was fun. I liked you, Cathy.
All right. Let's
So
talk
I
about
want to talk about that, though. I want to talk about that because what were your thoughts about that?
I am still traumatized by this death. What was the question?
Yeah, does April live or die?
Oh, as a plot.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant, simply because as you're watching it and as she's about to pick up this thing, you're like, there's no way. The way it's shot, you know something's going to happen. They foreshadow it in the way they're, telling it, and it's a matter of mere seconds. But regardless, there's that tension, and you're thinking, no way can she possibly die. They just did this entire thing.
Right.
Boom. And you're like, wow, they did. Title screen comes up, did she live? And you're like, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
and it's almost sadistic.
That's what I was gonna get to.
Because poor Tara Reid, it's like,
That's why I feel okay. When they did it in Death in the Family, when they did it in a Batman series, in which like Jason Todd, who is a not well liked Robin, and they left it up to the readers of the book. Does the Joker beat the shit out of him to death, or does he survive the beating with a crowbar? Unanimously, the comic book fans came out and said kill him. And hence, but this has led to greater Batman stories where this is on his conscience and he dies because of this incident, but he's a comic book character. He's not necessarily, he's not an actor. And I feel that this sort of kind of is sadistic because the way you vote affects her livelihood. And I don't know whether or not, I would assume that she has this gravy train, that she likes doing this. And if you vote no, you're taking food from her mouth and family.
Here's what I will say.
whatnot.
Just to make an if I think again, I don't know how exactly you would do this, but anything's possible. If she dies, right? Because we had Nova, and she wasn't in the second one. Now she comes back in the third one. We get the whole revelation of her life, and now she's fully trained. She's, I mean, heck, she gives him a lightsaber.
Right, the lightsaber saw the light saw.
But, so regardless... Okay, if she quote-unquote dies, now, I don't know if it's in the fourth one that she somehow comes back, or it's not until the fifth one, assuming that there would be a fifth one. But you do it, despite that, and you make that the thing. Now, I'm revealing the thing. I'm not saying it is the thing, because I'm not involved in these movies.
Right.
But you could do anything.
Yeah,
you could bring back Frankie Muniz as a robot.
Okay, Frankie Muniz, all right. We'll get back to
Poor guy.
Okay, that reminded me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Oh, it's just a flesh wound. He loses one arm. Oh, no, I can go on. Come back. Let me go on. Oh, I just lost another word. No, it's just a flesh wound. I'm going to go. Oh, he loses a leg. It was hysterical. Like, and I was like, that's all. Oh, just a flesh wound. I'm going to continue to go on. But let's go back to Tara Reid. Look, I don't know Tara Reid. She doesn't owe me money as far as I know. But it was just like, your vote is actually affecting her job security. But you're right. This is Sharknado. She could conceivably come back at the end of Sharknado 4 as a cliffhanger, or Sharknado 5. So I suppose it just seems sort of kind of sadistic to me that you're voting on. I know
because
it's about the character,
for me,
but
it's not that I dislike Tara Reid.
Sure.
But from a story perspective, I don't know. Maybe I'm a guy. I like Nova and Ian, or Finn together.
Right.
And again, Ian.
Yes.
Simply because, you know what? No disrespect to Tara Reid or her character. I just like the character of Nova.
I like the character of Nova too.
And what I liked, they set up the whole, I mean, you talk about campiness. You have a baby being born. You have her kind of coming out of the wound anew, or whatever symbolism you want to put into that.
Born of a shark.
That's right. And then, the whole, I salute you, father to son, you're my hero. We're hitting this over the head as much as we can.
Right.
Where's the wings? Because, the kid's always got to fly. And boom.
Boom, yeah. Again, it just seems, I haven't voted yet. I just don't want to be responsible for taking a job away from somebody. It's just, this town is tough enough. And talk about, like, this is a shark eat shark kind of town. And it just was very weird. And I wondered how Tara Reid felt going into this.
I wonder if she even knew.
Oh, and that would be the cruelest thing. She had, well, if they were going to do,
if
so
they
you
were
think
doing
that
the
they had her
card
in the script as getting pummeled, as getting flattened by satellite debris.
Yeah.
And you're saying that she knew that she was going to get flattened, but she didn't know whether or not her fate was going to be left up to the audience.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd love to know that story.
It's like the Gladiator days. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Because, when we talked about it, we always talked, one of the reasons why I brought up the marketing was because we wondered, did they give away too much? Look, having seen the movie, to the best of my knowledge, no one has revealed that plot point, and nothing could have prepared me for that.
No, and Thunder 11 even said, Thunder 11 was a great guest because he was very he gave out some good tidbits. He talked about himself, but when he was talking Sharknado 3, he very much kept things a secret. Like, he said that the ending was going to be big. But even as far as cameos went, he didn't even bite, as to, like, I was trying to get some information from him, and he didn't even bite then. He didn't even give away, like, where a person would be. He would just say, well, look closely, you might see that person. Says, and speaking of cameos, what I'd like to know is, how did our own fabulous Maria Menounos get involved? The
timeline is always tricky, but I believe it was when they were doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner. She was there,
right?
by the way, this could be a completely made up story, so I apologize. But to the best of my knowledge, because I think I remember that dress from that event, and it just kind of came together. And I knew Maria, because she's interviewed the cast for E, and for the second round, and one of the things that came out of that round of interviews was I want to be a part of the next one.
She approached, yeah.
And so obviously they found a way to make it happen. Whether or not it's the story that I told, I don't fully know. It's always funny to me. This isn't not knock on Maria. I think in general, when it's funny to see the celebrities how they react when they get eaten by a shark.
Right.
Because first off, they're not necessarily seeing the shark, obviously.
Right.
And then who knows who told them how to act and what to do and which way. But yeah, it's just funny, and so Maria's kind of flowing there, like a fish. My favorite was like Chris Jericho. He's being eaten by the back, but it doesn't look like he's not acting like he's being eaten in the back. But it's still funny nonetheless. So it's just great.
Yeah,
it's just great.
It was fun. And Thunder 11 did talk about this. This is one of the points in which I think in that interview he was candid when he talked about, we never intended it to go this cameo route. And he said, correct me if I'm wrong, if my memory may be off, but he did say that, it's getting to that point where it's becoming all about the cameos. And he said he had to, there were days where he said, hey, we just got somebody in, you got to write a line or two for this person. And he wasn't upset about it, but this was an unexpected this was an unexpected road in which he didn't know that the Sharknado movies were going to go to. I think that all these cameos, I think now it's expected, especially after the second one. So who knows?
Especially now after this one.
Yeah, especially. So,
I mean, you had George R. Martin.
George R. R. Martin
at the shark wedding getting eaten, which is obviously a reference to the Red Wedding, which. Look up.
And how that all happened was, which is great, because I just remember seeing this and I'm like going with that scene. In fact, I had to rewind it to make sure. I was like, is that George R. R. Martin? I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, how? I go, what the hell is he in Sharknado? Doesn't he have books to write? He has books to finish. He shouldn't be doing Sharknado 3. But apparently, believe it or not, his cameo, its genesis took place a year before at Comic-Con at I believe it was like a Simon and Schuster party. And the Sharknado people were there, and they approached him, and he's like, this is something I'd be on board with. How long is this going to take? And, and he had enthusiasm, believe it or not, for Sharknado. And he didn't leap to their offer in the third installment. He goes, I have a bone to pick with you. He says, at issue was the fact that Martin's Santa Fe-based movie theater cinema wasn't selected as one of the theaters able to stream a special Sharknado event. And then he went on, we'll get you a print, you can run it in your theater, and you'll be in the next movie. And it was a little fun trade-off. So he got to show it at his local favorite movie theater. So that's sort of kind of cool. Yeah. And then now here he is. He's in Sharknado 3, where he should be writing Game of Thrones, damn it. But in any case, it was fun because it was a shark wedding that turned into a red wedding. And you had a 3-headed shark. So
that's right.
It's a fun cameo.
And and the person next to him, the female, she's just. I apologize if you're someone of importance. Well, any human being is of importance, but she's in a wedding gown.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
So I found that to be great. One of the things. Kind of let's touch upon this. One of the difficulties they had going in, which I thought was part of. I don't know if they meant to touch upon this in the trailer, or if it was just kind of in general. They said in the trailer, most sequels take years to make. Right. We bring you a sequel when it's almost ready, right, or something like that. Basically, as long as it's somewhat assembled, here you go. And this time around, right, going from the second, they get less than a year, pretty much. And, as we talked about, the last one was July 30th. This one was, it's July 24th right now.
Right.
Came out July 22nd, right?
Yeah.
So that's less than a year. And you have to make a bigger movie. You have to so on and so forth. And it becomes extremely difficult when about halfway through, or whatever the exact timeline is,
Right.
your crew members start to take off.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate, and in Sharknado Feeding Frenzy, it's a documentary. I'm sure they played on Syfy. It's available at a lot of various places. I think it's on Netflix as well. They talked about how, people wanted union wages.
Right.
And, it's not that the filmmakers are against, union workers in this industry, but they don't have a union budget. Mm-hmm. They just don't.
Right.
And, their whole thing is they want to make this movie and tell the movie.
Right.
And if people want to be a part of that, great. But this is not a movie that you go on to make money on.
Right.
This is something that you do as the actors, the cameos that we've talked about, that you want to put your name on.
Right. Absolutely.
And so,
and it's interesting because it is Asylum Pictures who's had in the past. You can Google them. Ooh, I think I just.
It's all right.
No, sorry about that.
It's the tornado.
Oh no! Sharknado just ate the lights. It ate the lights. Asylum has had their controversies as far as they are a company that you can look them up. They put out movies that's with titles that sort of sound like movies that are out in the marketplace right now, and they've been had to change titles to certain movies. They mostly rely on a lot of VOD, home entertainment, sci-fi network kind of things. So they do work on a very shoestring kind of a budget, and you can see it in the movies that they produce. Sharknado is sort of kind of interesting because a bulk of it was shot on the Universal Studios in Florida, which is really fascinating to me because you would figure this wasn't a guerrilla style kind of filming like that guy who made a movie shot at Disneyland and Disney World and blah. It wasn't like that kind of guerrilla style like they went in like with secret cameras. They went in with actual this is the blessing and there was a bit of synergy there, but you would have thought that obviously Universal didn't care about this, and they were down and dirty. The sort of kind of cool thing about it is sometimes sometimes you reserve the theme park shooting or shooting of a television show. That's usually a great advertisement for the theme park, and I didn't find that it was gratuitous in this. Like I didn't find that it was, hey, come to Universal Studios in Florida, blah blah blah, and these are all the attractions we had. I thought that they used the location pretty well. In fact, some of it even reminded me a little bit of Jurassic World.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very fascinating that they were allowed to shoot at Universal Studios in Florida. What were your thoughts on
I thought it was a great location, and then they played with it well. And for me, it had elements of the way back, just because that took place in a water park, and I just like parks in general, you know what I mean? And when you get to play with that, they made the whole gag of like, hey, take a picture of me with the shark.
Right.
And it turns out it's not. It's not a
fake
music.
shark.
Yeah, it's a real shark, and it eats him.
Jerry Springer.
So it's all these great elements, and then kind of because I am a Chris Jericho fan, and by the way, I and Jurassic World had the whole thing of at the end of the day, these employees that work there, like they're responsible for so many things, but they're just overall minimum wage workers.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you lost a phone. Who are you? Get out of here. So Bruce, the ride attendant, and I found him funny, and
he was great, and his name's is a Jaws reference, which there was a lot of references to a movie near and dear to my heart, Jaws, which we'll get into. But something that I read too is that Anthony C. Ferrante, the director, he goes, we're sending sharks into Universal Orlando, and people are getting eaten by sharks. It was really cool to see the park be very open to it in a way you wouldn't expect them to, and I agree with that. And he went on to say, he goes, we told these Universal folks, he goes, people are going to die in your park, and they said, yeah. but if it's the sharks doing it, it's okay.
Yeah.
They're like, that's fine. So,
Yeah, because a lot of times, sometimes it works both ways. A product approaches you and you get to place it. Other times, you have to clear the product, right? So maybe it's a beer sponsor, right?
Sure.
And, they're very particular of like, okay, what scenes are we in? And if the answer's, I don't know, it's just something that you'd see on the news that you definitely don't want to see and be ever a part, then it'd be like, whoa, do not put our product anywhere near that.
Right. No, absolutely. And, there have been movies, one comes to mind, a movie called Roller Coaster, which was a Universal picture in Sensurround, and that was filmed at Magic Mountain. And it was filmed around the time where Colossus was going to be opening. And Roller Coaster was about a serial bomber who was terrorizing theme parks. In particular, this one, he was planting bombs in roller coasters. So, yeah, I'm not sure if you'd want to have that stigma on your park, but I think with Universal, number one, there's a synergy. You get to filming in Florida. I don't know if there was a tax break or even because you're filming at the park. You have a studio right there to film at. So maybe it just made things efficient.
I think, if you're unaware, Syfy is part of, NBC. NBC is a part of Universal. Universal's ultimately under the umbrella of Comcast, so it's all the same business entity at the end of the day. I haven't seen this yet, but I would love to. There's so many. Right. People kind of come out of the woodwork and they have their crazy theories, which always amazes me, especially for a movie like this. Like, how honestly can you actually take it? But, people say, like, this is the best global warming movie ever made. And for me, I would love to see a dissertation on the symbolism of the universal globe spinning and killing sharks and kind of being overtaken by sharks and then going in the tornado. What does it all mean, people? What is... Write me a dissertation.
Yeah, tell us how Sharknado is about global warming. Yeah, I mean, then why would you do that? I mean, I don't look at any social political commentary from Sharknado. When you have a line, sharks in space, how can you? I just look at this movie as pure television popcorn entertainment. Have a few
it was
beers.
Brilliant. I don't. James Bond's not a part of the Universal.
No,
okay.
No, but the opening was great.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, that obviously that's a great kind of plug for Spectre coming out in November.
Yeah,
another James Bond movie in that franchise. But it was just brilliant because you have the mouth and you have Finn and.
I thought that was brilliant that they did that, and that was like probably the first time in this series where it went into that type of parody. Because that's like almost. That's the Mel Brooks-ish kind of parody, and you open up with I thought that was brilliant. For me, the Jaws references I caught. Maybe I didn't catch them all.
There's no way anyone can catch any of everything.
And here's some of my favorites, though. Why don't we at least do that? Some of my favorites were Thunder Levin, who he did tell us he was in the movie and that you had to look for him, and he was at the White House. He was special agent or something. He was special agent Benchley. Okay. Obviously, last name Benchley. Peter Benchley was the author of Jaws. So that was one. Then there was a great twofer. I got a great twofer because there was a General Gottlieb. Okay, General Gottlieb was played by Tim Russ, who is known for being in Star Trek Voyager. And I was like, hey, Tuvok, that's great. It was good to see him. And he played General Gottlieb, which is a throwback to Carl Gottlieb, who was he contributed to writing Jaws, wrote a great book called The Jaws Logs, and he was actually starred in Jaws as newspaper reporter Meadows. So he was in the movie, so that's obviously a reference. Then there was Bruce.
I like how you just said obviously. Well, I don't know if it's that obvious, but yes.
For anybody who's a Jaws fan, I think it was. All right, maybe. I don't know.
Here's the thing.
For a Jaws fan.
We're certainly glad you're pointing out because I don't know if that was that obvious, which is why we have you.
All right. Well, I thought so. And then you had Bruce. Then you had Bruce, the roller coaster attendant, who gets eaten by a shark. Bruce was the name of the mechanical shark in the original Jaws. They called him Bruce after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. So a little bit of Jaws trivia. But yeah, he was called Bruce. And then, of course, the Jaws ride is at Universal Studios in Florida, and I still believe that it's here. The Hanging Shark is, I still believe that it's in Hollywood. I don't think they've taken it down. And it's in, so that's a throwback to Jaws. So it was great. And I give credit to Thunder Levin throwing this stuff in there because for me, it was fun. And he did talk a little bit about Jaws, but his main thing was Star Trek growing up as a kid. That got him interested in the industry. And that's why I wondered if Tim Russ may have been a big cameo for him. Not sure if he was a Voyager fan. I am a Voyager fan, so haters be kind. I mean, I think it's a great shit. It's Star Trek, so I'm in. But it was great to see Tim Russ as General Gottlieb.
What did you think? One of the things I thought... I'm glad that they kind of hit it over the head. I hate when movies sort of recast a character with a different actor and then don't make mention of it. With Claudia's character, I perhaps they went a little bit too far, but they kept just beating it overhead like, oh, great new hair.
Claudia, the
daughter,
the daughter. Yeah, great.
In this,
Right. Oh, I love what you did. That's right.
In this movie, she was played by Ryan Newman. And I forget the actress in the original, but yeah, obviously not the same one. And so to point that out, it was like, oh, you changed, you look different. Wow,
that's great. What a haircut can do. Yeah, it's so long as there's some semblance of awareness in some way in which they do it that's clever, and I felt that they got around that. Yeah, I thought they got around that great. Not since the replacing of the voice for Tom Servo in Mystery Science Theater 3000. When that gentleman left, pardon me for forgetting that actor's name, but when he left that show, and then they came back with somebody else who's going to voice him in the opening theme song, they just right up. When they came to Tom Servo, his thing was, I'm different. So again, these nice little throwbacks were great. And Thunder Levin talked about how Sharknado has become so popular that those MST3K guys who now do riff tracks, which is basically the same thing, and they do it at theaters, they've done Sharknado and Sharknado 2. And we asked him, I said, after that interview, I did ask him, I said, how do you feel about that? Did you find it insulting or anything? He goes, no. He goes, they handled it with such respect. But they're only going to be doing movies like a Sharknado because they know that people get what Sharknado is. And they too do it. They do it in such a way that even makes the viewing that much more fun and hysterical. So you don't want to necessarily, it's an homage. You poke fun because you love.
Yeah.
That's basically it. So if I poke fun at Sharknado, it's not because it sucks. It's because we really love it.
I mean, here's under normal circumstances, right? If we actually took fact by fact of what this movie is, this movie would never survive our actual dissection.
No.
So
absolutely not. And I myself, look, if you're watching Sharknado 2, Sharknado 3, how many times are you doing your own Mystery Science Theater 3000? I did it myself. I mean, at the White House scene, there was a Mako shark that comes flying through the White House. I think it was coming towards Ian Ziering, and I was like, uh-oh, better get Mako. That's all I thought about, Mako being a car painting thing. And so I'm doing all this crap while I'm watching it, and I'm just laughing. I'm having a good time watching TV at home. So, which in the summertime can be rare. It can be rare.
It can be rare.
So can we talk about let's talk a little bit about some of these cameos. I mean, number one, let's talk about, they were in the Sharknado 2. You had the Today Show cast, which is synergistic because they're on NBC. So you had Matt Lauer, Al Roker, who's the other, there were two other, well, you had Kathy and Gifford and Hoda, which was funny.
And I love that they went for, you know what I mean? I know Cathy Lee personally. I haven't met Hoda, but Cathy, they just kind of go for it, and they're able to make fun of themselves. And it would be one thing if they were kind of riffing on themselves, but they're like, we're just drunk.
We're just drunk, yeah. It was great. But then again, you got people like Ann Coulter, who's a political pundit. Now,
Susan Collins.
Yeah, okay. Susan Collins, but Ann Coulter has a modicum of respect within the political realm.
Yeah.
And you would figure, why the hell would you do this? So she does this unabashedly, not thinking that this is going to hurt her reputation as a pundit. Then of course, on the flip side of the political spectrum, you had Anthony Weiner, who was in there. You had everybody from Brian Mitchell. You had a lot of NASCAR driver folks like Brad
Heidi and
Keselowski.
Frank, their voices, which I don't know how in Delaware I ain't here listening to Heidi and Frank, but so be it.
you had, well, and add to that, you had Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller were in this. Harvey Levin was in this. Jackie Collins, as you mentioned, Jerry Springer, Kathleen Gifford, Kim Richards. Okay, now I know she's known for Housewives of somewhere or other. I know Kim Richards from the Disney movies. Okay, Escape from Witch Mountain, the original Disney classic. Neo. I guess this was like his first. They were making a big deal that Neo was in this. Who else? Savannah Guthrie, Tim Russ, as I mentioned, Tom Compton, a football player. I mean, I have a list of 55.
I mean, David Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff.
He was brilliant.
He was great. So, kudos. And again, kudos to Thunder Levin for writing this and the way that it's directed. We said this from the top. They act it straight. And I think that's what leads to it's meant to entertain and meant to be fun. I mean, why else would you watch a Sharknado movie? Do you go in, you're right. This is not under the same microscope.
No.
that we would do. Yeah. Like an Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So it was very.
I will give them. They moved story along. They didn't answer questions by any means. So let's not get that. But regardless, it had heart. And as sappy as the heart was, it was there.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that they killed off so many people. It almost seems like every cameo got killed, and I was actually surprised that Frankie Muniz got killed. I thought he was gonna stick around for at least until 4.
I thought so too, and especially the way he, I would have liked to see him go at Finn a little bit, because it seemed like he, yes, he's helping Nova, but he's not just helping Nova because he's a good guy. He wants to get in those pants.
Probably, yeah.
And when he
There's
says,
a chemistry there.
Like what I forget exactly what his last line is, and he's probably looking for something, from her. Right. Maybe like I love you, maybe an actual kiss, whatever. Because it's just juxtapose that to what Claudia and her 5-minute boyfriend ended up having. He's like, oh, what the hell? I'll go for it. Okay. And he died too as soon as he got his kiss. Yeah,
the other great cameo in this was Mark Cuban.
He was
fantastic. As the president of the United States of America. He was great. He did not die. If I'm correct. But he was a great cameo.
People refer to me as a shark.
Yeah.
Now they refer to me as a beacon of hope.
But he was great. I hope they bring him back for 4 because he played with Ian perfectly, I thought.
I think he'll be back. I thought he did brilliant. Ultimately, it'll come down to probably Mark himself. But they brought back the mayor of New York, and he died immediately. If they do this, I mean, speaking of the 1960s Batman, when the movie came out, it was like, by gosh, Batman, what do they think? All of the United States? If it was 3 of them, maybe. But with the 4 of them, their minimal objective must be the world. So in this, you've gone to space. Where do you go with this? What is, quote unquote, their minimum objective must be blank? Like, what is the shark's objective?
The galaxy. And then they were trying to make it, and God bless them, they were trying to make some sort of parallel to certain sharks had this their biology had like bird type of biology in them, and
which Frankie Muniz was great. What was it? Biometeorology is not exact science yet, so please forgive me.
And again, and they even destroyed that great the RV. I thought the RV was great, and they destroyed that
Mystery Mobile.
Yeah, the Mystery Mobile. I thought that was a great RV. It would have been a cool thing. And I don't know, like for what do you expect? What do you think may or may not happen in Sharknado 4?
I mean, part of it, you gotta, I don't know when you have to start answering questions or you just keep posing new ones and negating the other ones. But one of the questions by Handy and Frank on the radio was, these things seem to follow Finn.
Yes.
And, and that kept being and he says to Tara Reid before, I mean, she ends up in the shuttle with him anyway, but he says, after this, that's it. And his dilemma was he wanted to be a hero, but now he kind of finally let it go and let his dad be the hero instead of him. So, if April dies, now you got the weight of the world on your shoulders, or if she lives, I don't know where you go.
I don't know.
But you gotta, I don't know, for me, you gotta perhaps start answering some of these questions, and whatever it is, maybe there's, I don't know, something, you get into some weird realms of like spirituality if all of a sudden they're following the thing because of him.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out there. And the genesis of this started when Ian Kaiser and I were watching Sharknado 2. And then it really came into fruition where Thunder had said he wanted to take this global. Like he wanted to go like to France or to England, I believe he said when we were interviewing him. So wouldn't it be cool? And here's my quick pitch is there is a Sharknado task force that's headed up by Finn. And they are able to predict. So you take a little bit of Twister, right? Trying to predict Twisters. You're trying to predict Sharknadoes. And they're like they're the military from Aliens, okay? So they're your badass hombres who would try to go in and try to defeat the Sharknado. And then a cataclysmic event so big that it's even over their heads. And we've got mayhem, chaos, sharks flying everywhere, cameos everywhere. That's what I would love to see.
Or we got to go to the source. Just kill all the sharks. That's it. Prevent the Sharknadoes from happening and just have tornadoes. I don't know.
Just kill all the sharks.
No one's ever said like, hey, you know what? This would be 100 times better if it was simply a tornado without sharks.
Without sharks.
Because it still seems equally devastating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? Let me throw back to another Jaws reference. I'm not sure if this was intentional, but so the shark in space, it was a big great white, gulps down April, Tara Reid. And then our hero, Ian, goes after him. And he flies into the jaws of a shark. So we see him from the inside of the shark's gullet. To me, I had to recall Jaws 3 in 3D, in which, again, written by Carl Gottlieb, in which a character, I believe his name was Fitzroyce, got sucked into the great white's mouth, and we actually saw from the inside perspective of what it's like to be eaten by a great white. They showed from the camera from the inside. Very ludicrous, very funny, but I was just like going, I saw that in Jaws 3D. I don't know if that was, we'll have to ask Thunder 11, we'll have to have him back on to see if that was a...
I think it certainly played to that. It played to the fact of, him and Nova, she was talking about, their dialogue was so cheesy about, when I was, I was reborn after I came out of that shark. Which obviously is then just, again, so now you're taking the symbolism of what happened in the first one and now just applying it to April and him, but seeing it in a different way.
Right.
Because, I mean, ultimately, that has been, Finn's arc still has been about being with his family. And being a good man, and through 3 films he is no better at that than he was at the start of this.
Yeah, no. Hey, did Mark McGrath survive? He survived, right? Yeah, he was another cameo. And I was a little bit... Oh, and here's a question. What happened to the golden saw? The golden saw was awesome. I know it's replaced with the lightsaber saw, which is pretty cool, too. But it was funny to see Finn climbing out through the jaws of the shark, other than just hacking his way through.
Yeah.
But that was just like a funny scene. And then, of course, he had to dive out of the way because of sharks falling from the sky.
Yeah.
So, but then we get the great birth scene, which I can't ever unsee. Now,
Oh, man.
and the baby's name is Gil.
Finn and Gil.
Finn and Gil. And gills are very integral to a shark. For if they stop swimming and the water doesn't go through their gills, they will die. So, Sharknado 3.
Sharknado 3, that's right. Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell no. And I just wonder how quick Thunder is being asked to write Sharknado 4.
Oh, it's going to come out for the next summer.
It's going to come out for next summer. And I wonder, since we talked about marketing, I wonder if Syfy's approach now, maybe they will pay a little bit more attention. I have a feeling that maybe marketing or the lack thereof, so to speak, or just totally relying on social media, maybe that just wasn't enough. You do have to spend a little money, whether it's like ads or billboards ads, and you had "Oh hell no," that's a funny tagline. They gotta be a little clever.
I didn't quite fully understand. I get it. But I thought Sharknado 2, the second one, that worked well. This one wasn't as great. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's good, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Oh hell no. What does that say?
Yeah, I think Sci-Fi Channel, they need to put their collective heads together, be a little bit smarter, and obviously now they have this hashtag. Does April lives, April dies. So they have that to lead in a lot. So we'll see what happens and see if they can get an uptick in the ratings. So
the biggest thing, I wonder if they'll reveal results. Granted, you can kind of follow the hashtags, right? So you can do your own sort of computing of that, but I wonder which the period under which they're kind of doing this. So you have to know the period of the poll. But it'd be interesting if we'll know going into it
whether she lives or dies.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting, because I would think that they'd want to, at best, try to keep that a secret as close to the release date or air date, I should call it, of this, because knowing going in, we've already seen it sort of happen, so we know what happened. So there's no mystery as to how she would die. The only mystery would be how she would live. Yeah. And then the mystery would be, how do we go on from there? But I guess you're right. I mean, there is a way that
here's the thing. There's that. By not knowing, there's that curiosity factor, right? And it's like Schrodinger's cat. Right now, she's alive and dead, at the same time.
Yeah.
And it isn't until we see the movie that.
And I would think they would want to try to keep that
under wraps.
Under wraps. I mean, and not have that spoiled. And again, Thunder talked about the marketing, and we heavily talked about how marketing can really affect and how marketing can spoil. And how writers are conscious and try to be conscious of this. And he was saying that sometimes, maybe there were too many cameos, or maybe there's too much in the marketing, that, you don't want to spoil a lot of the big cameos in the show. I'll be honest, I wasn't. A lot of them weren't spoiled for me.
They weren't. They certainly weren't. But one of the things becomes, unless it's like a flashback and that's how you disguise it. But as soon as you have, Tara Reid on set,
right,
boom, right. You know what I mean? It's for the most part over,
right.
Or you can certainly assume a couple of things. Now,
sure.
They could be clever and do something completely different, and if they do, bless them. But I don't.
Or hope that people aren't paying attention. I don't know. I don't know.
All it takes is one photo to get out there.
That's right. No.
And that's unfortunate, but in the past, again, they don't have the money for security of that nature.
Right.
You know, like I said, in the second one, they were working around paparazzi. They couldn't tell the paparazzi to get away.
Right.
and that was one of the things, you know. The paparazzis take these photos, it gets out, and what are you going to do? And that's another thing that we talked about of, like, you may not necessarily, like, if you had a perfect marketing plan for it, you wouldn't do it that way, but if just by the sheer nature of press it gets out, then what are you to do?
Yeah. So, you know, the pop culture of Sharknado, you said you had just gotten into watching these and such, and to me what's amazing, like after our interview with Thunder 11, you know, I talked to a lot of my friends and I said, hey, I just interviewed the writer of the Sharknado series, and everybody was like, oh my god, that's really cool. And I'm like, yeah, it is sort of kind of cool. I mean, because what Sharknado has meant to pop culture, it's definitely, you know what Sharknado is. Whether you've seen the movies, you've heard Sharknado. And to be part of that, I think was pretty special. I thought he was a fantastic guest. It was so great to have him on. But it really is proof. Like, we've had John Ottman on. I was breaking it down. I was telling a friend, I go, you've had an Academy Award winner on our show. So we've had a Grammy Award winner on, you know, as an interview guest. You know, we've had John Ottman, famed composer, editor, you know, and now the writer of Sharknado. And when I talk about, hey, I just had the
fits right in.
Yeah, fits right. You know, but it's, yeah, it really does. It's and you know, it just brings us up in stature. I think it's fantastic we're able to do that. So great job, Phil, because I know you and the cast getting these people on. I look forward to more stuff. It's good. Cool. And you don't have these people on too because outside it's Sharknado. We don't send somebody to the red you know, you send a person to the red carpet of Sharknado because aside from Maria being in this movie, people know what Sharknado is. There's a hunger for it. And it always, you know, there's always somebody's gonna bite.
That's right. Well, I think we've covered most things. Again, we could go on and on about various other things, but nonetheless, I think it's about time for us to wrap on out of here.
I think so. The skies are getting dark. I need to take cover.
Yeah, I don't. You know, we've lost one member of our panel today,
and that wasn't pretty.
You know, you can follow her at Cathy Kelley on Instagram, at Catherine Kelley.
And hashtag her.
Yeah, hashtag her. You know,
hashtag her.
We'll make sure someone's running her Twitter and Instagram, so that way, you know, post death, that her presence is still felt.
Yeah, and it was nice having. You know, I got to say too, it was great having that female perspective on a Sharknado movie. Yeah. You know, the den of geeks, so to speak. You know, so some people can argue that it's male oriented, but it was nice to have a great female perspective who was actually at the premiere and. Great, you know, we miss you already. Yeah. Your presence is missed. Still blood in the chair. Oh, it's awful.
Clean that up now. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us on another Anatomy of Movie here at Popcorn Talk. You know, the Thunder 11 interview we've been so touting. It's up there. You can. It's under. You know, just look it up under Popcorn Talk. But it's, you know, the show's called I Talk Movies. Cathy Kelley's. Don't let her death be in vain. Check out her interviews from the red carpet. Just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Popcorn Talk Network. Those interviews are there. There's a ton of them with her. So, you know, those are the last memories we have of her. For more interaction, follow Demetri at DMovies1701.
1701. Oh, one other cameo, too, I have to mention because we brought up Howard Stern show with Thunder. Benji Bronk was in the movie. This time he didn't get eaten by a shark. He actually, I think he got pummeled by Ian Ziering. He was in front of the Capitol building. So Benji Bronk did make his appearance back in another Sharknado movie. I did see that.
That's right. And I'm your host, Phil Svitek. And follow us here at Movie Anatomy and at The Popcorn Talk.
Where can they find you?
You can find me here on other shows. We've got stuff down the pipeline. We've got Ant-Man. We've got Trainwreck. We've got Mission Impossible. We've got American Ultra. And that's just in the coming weeks. Pixels. Southpaw. Oh, man. So many great movies. And, of course, we'll be back with Sharknado 4. Whether April lives or dies. See you next time.
producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.